all of you out there in Radio Land. I am here with Professor Scharron Clayton, and our subject, the one subject we've talked about so far, has to do with violence, has to do with our children, and really one of those, where do we go from here? I do want to say, I want to send a shout out, a personal one, to all the parents that I see that use the public library.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised to go down there sometimes and see how many kids are in that library and how many parents are with some of these children, these younger children. So while there are those parents who are striving to do the right thing as far as parenting is concerned and expose their children, why is that, you know, you do all of that and then someone knocks on your door and says, we're sorry to inform you that your child has just been killed. I mean, that's not balance of any sort, at all. So we try to say to our community, if you are concerned about violence and what goes on where we live in our part of the country, county, city, we are exposed to far, far too much violence for a city this size. And every time I ask the chief how things are going, he's very concerned about what we're facing. Nobody really has the answer, but we do know that there are some underlying causes. Professor Clayton, I'm going to ask you what we've been, in terms of what we've been talking about this morning, to see if you can tie that up for us.
Well, you know, I think we started out with the fact that there are so many guns on the street, and that these guns are finding their way into the hands of young people who are using the guns in a way perhaps that some know the consequences, but others may not know the consequences. And we did link the fact that violence and gun violence may just have a relationship to the kind of gaming situations that our children are involved in terms of the video games and being exposed to violence at a young age through the video game system, games that are used to train our military personnel. With this linkage, we went on to say that perhaps we need to monitor the kind of technology that our young people are exposed to from a young age, because soon the technology takes the place of parenting, and it takes the place of exposure to more meaningful, or I'm going to say to activities that can broaden the child's interest in future years. I believe that we also wanted to make it clear that we recognize the role of technology, but there's no substitute for parenting and one-on-one and group interaction with our young kids to help develop their social skills. So where we are now basically is that we have illegal guns that are finding their way to the streets. We have parents who have guns in their homes that kids are actually become aware of, and we have young people using guns for violent possibilities. Violence and the prevention of violence, we need to make sure that, number one, we're not maltreating our kids. We need to make sure that any intimate violence that takes place in the home is not, our kids aren't exposed to it, and I mean partner violence or sexual violence, because kids are what they see. We need to be certain that elder abuse is not going on in the household, because a lot of older people are being abused, and kids will see how this abuse takes place and will inflict that on other younger kids. We need to be aware of collective violence that takes place in a community when we respond with physical means as opposed to responding with negotiation, responding with trying to come to meaningful solutions to problems, because our kids will practice what they see. So the other thing I don't think people realize is that there's self-directed violence too that kids will see. What I mean by self-directed violence It could be, substance abuse is a violent attack on the body. Okay, I could put myself in situations that are unhealthy, that actually can result in violence to me, but I'm playing a part in it. So we have to be very careful about the kind of behaviors we're demonstrating. So, our concern with youth violence, then I would say, to sum this up, has to do with what kids see, what they have access to, and perhaps what's not provided for them. Not to suggest that this is going on in every household, but if we know that it's going on in a household and we don't feel so connected to provide some support for that particular household, then we are contributing to a collective violence in our neighborhood. So if I know that there's violence in your home and I'm living next door, somehow I have to be mature enough and adult enough to be able to say to you, Lou, I notice such and such and such. Do you know these kind of we have to be willing to deal with one another so that we don't support collective violence and sit back and say, oh, it's so violent.
Yeah.
Somebody is seeing this take place. Yeah.
And thank you for that. And as we open, as I said, because violence is everywhere, I don't know how many of us are looking or working for solutions, but there are things that you can do with your children. And we certainly encourage parents and caregivers or anyone who has an interest in children. It doesn't even have to be your child. There are many ways that we can help these children. One of the other things that we're seeing right here at KBBG, Scharron, is the fact that we are seeing young people getting involved with Zoe's Book Club. And we are so happy about that, because these young people come, and we have people that even come and watch them read. That group is growing, and it's so necessary for us to encourage our children. And every chance that we get, there's so many things that won't cost you anything at all. It's just a matter of taking your kids, finding out. There's even lists. You can get it from the library. Places that you can take your children, the little animal farm. They got little here in town.
I know. We used to go there when we were little.
The animal farm. Every kid needs to go to the animal farm. But at any rate, there, and the parks. Do you know that, and I'm sure this is still true, even though it was 30-some years ago when we moved here, but one of the things that I remember in looking up schools and that kind of thing, what is available, Iowa was noted as one of the states that had the greatest park system going.
That's right.
And I thought, wow, Iowa?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah.
And we have wonderful
We have more parks in Waterloo than you can count.
It's just unbelievable. And you don't have to pay to go to these parks. We're fortunate, and we live close to a park, and our little Zoe, she loves going there, and you always see kids there, and that's another place where you'll find parents with their children. And there's just some things that the parent really needs to be there,
It's so much fun too, and I used to use my son to go to places like that.
Get you back there. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Let me mention
they got to start making these seats bigger, though.
Yeah, I tell you. Higher off the ground.
Higher off the ground and that kind of thing. That's for sure.
I want to mention two places. Of course, if you're interested in violence and violence prevention, the World Health Organization has a website that explains all the forms of violence, and then some of the things that can be pursued in terms of prevention. The second thing I would mention, that if you're interested in violence and violence prevention to avoid collective violence in our community, then I would encourage some small focus groups at the various churches or community centers to begin to see those people who are like-minded. And the third thing, with the video games, there is a website that you can go to check the rating system in terms of violence within different video games. And that website is esrb.org. So it has helpful tips on how families can discuss the issue of violence in games. And so those are 3 resources. There are many, many more, but rather than subscribe to what people tell us is going to happen in the summer, because we all get geared up for it, let's put some other messages out there in the universe, such that positive things are going to happen. And just get out there and make it a day, and you'd be surprised at the fun you can have with kids. I'm getting a little old, but I'm older, but you still get out there and you still do some things in the sunshine. And I'm sorry, but I can remember how amazed I was just to watch flowers grow. Just to plant something and take care of it.
Sure.
So let's make this a good summer.
We really need to concentrate on that. And if somebody's got some good ideas of something, there's plenty. We didn't even touch